What's up, quadcopter fans? It's AngryDrone.com. Today I'm going to be doing a video and I'm going to be installing my Walkera G2 2-axis gimbal. I've had this for probably about a month and a half. Got it even before I purchased the V303 Seeker. My plans were to put it on there, but when I got the V303 Seeker, I received a bad transmitter from GearBest. Luckily I was able to find someone cool online that had an extra one and was willing to sell me an extra transmitter. So once I received the new transmitter, I was able to get a couple of good test flights in. I was having a bad range issue, but it seems to be solved, so now I feel pretty confident in putting on the new gimbal. So I haven't installed it yet. So the contents that come in with it, you're going to get a servo wire, obviously the gimbal, you're going to get a balancing ring, you're going to get a couple Allen wrenches, you're going to get this tool here, which is used to make some different adjustments. When I first received this actually was hitting right here whenever this would move back and forth, which you don't want whenever you're trying to use your gimbal. So it just barely touches right now. In order to adjust it, I had to use this tool, stick it in here, and adjust some different points within the gimbal in order to push this out, so then that way it was not rubbing whenever this moves back and forth. Additionally, you're going to receive this Y power cable, fairly easy to hook up on the V303 Seeker. You really can't put it in wrong just due to the way that this is set up. This is kind of a useless wire, so we're not going to use this right now. You get this mounting bracket here, and then also too, you get this screw right here, which is going to be used for the balancing ring. We're not going to be using the balancing ring. We don't need that at the moment. You will need some of your own screws in order to mount to the bottom of the quadcopter. Now if you received just the standard kind of gimbal that comes with it, or GoPro mount, then you should be able to use those 4 screws that came with it. If you didn't, you can purchase an extra screw set, which is probably advised just due to the fact that it comes with just the right amount of screws whenever you buy this thing. So if you lose a screw, I mean, you're SOL, you shit out of luck, because you don't have any additional screws. So you can pick your screw set up for anywhere between like $2 to $3 online. Definitely well worth getting it. So first and foremost, I'm going to move the gimbal out of the way. We're not going to need that right now. What we need to do is we need to mount this mounting bracket onto the quadcopter. So basically these holes are going to face downward, or when we flip it over they'll face upward. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that this piece goes into the correct direction. So if you'll notice that this is slanted here, and then if you notice in here on the quadcopter, or I'm sorry, on the gimbal, you have a slant here too as well. So if I go ahead and I push this in, this slant piece is going to butt up here, and that's going to allow me to be able to slide this gimbal on to the quadcopter. Now this is going to obviously be the front, so we're going to need to use that in the front whenever we go to mount it. So we're going to flip this over. You'll notice that this method is for the newer V303 Seekers. If you got a belly wire, this isn't going to work for you. You're going to have a different setup than what I'm going to do. But if you have these ports similar to the X380, then this method will work too for you as well. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have this one moving forward, or I'm sorry, in the front. We're going to take our 2 screws, and then if you got a V303 Seeker, you might consider picking up one of these hex screwdrivers. They definitely come in handy, especially while working on any of these bigger quadcopters, because a lot of them use these hex screws. So go ahead and put this into the groove right here on the mounting bracket. I'm going to put it in lightly on the first screw, just so if I have to make any adjustments on the second one, I can. You're going to want to make sure you get this nice and tight. It's going to be the lifeline that's going to be holding on your quadcopter. I got too many Allen wrenches here. I need to make sure I find the one that fits. Alright, so nice and stable. Hopefully that doesn't vibrate out over time. And if you notice that black square on the bottom, that's just a piece of electrical tape. I was getting a lot of dust flying up into the gimbal, into the battery bay of the quadcopter whenever I was flying. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this on here. So and you'll notice here in the back there's two holes on the gimbal, and then you have these two grooves right here on the mounting bracket. So we're just going to slide this on here until it should click. I haven't done this before, but that's what I'm assuming it's going to do. Okay, so now it's on there nice and snug. So we have our gimbal on. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. Looks like we're fairly close to the ground with our gimbal here. It's going to be touching a little bit. So we might need to do a modification on the legs to raise these up a little bit, so then that way the gimbal is not touching. I wasn't expecting it to be this low, but it appears to be how low it is. So everything should line up here on the side. Let me adjust the camera here. So on this side we have our power, and then right here on the board you can see this is where our power plug is going to go in, and this is where our servo wire is going to go in. We want to make sure that we're not going to fry the board, and from everything that I've read, we're going to be running the servo wire into the pitch here. Now, this power cable is pretty easy to install, since you know, you have your polarity here, positive, negative. So our red's going to go on the right, black on the left, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and take this. Now, the nice thing about this wire here, scoot this back. This wire only goes in one way into the port here, so you can't put it in wrong. It won't let you, and it'll also snap and click to hold in place once it's in there. So now we have power running. So now we need to run our signal to the gimbal here. So the last thing that we need to do is run our signal wire to this port here, which appears to be like an S-bus port. You're only going to need one pin on here, and it's going to go into your your pitch, which is the first one. So the polarity on this can only go in one way. Is going to go white. The wire is going to be on the far left, and that's the only wire that we need. Now the cable that came with the servo wire that came with the gimbal is not long enough to make it from the gimbal to quadcopter. Now I believe the polarity on the V303 is that you have your power here, and then your signal is on the far right. Not 100% sure on that, but that's the way that we're gonna go ahead and try this and see if it works. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have to get a longer servo wire, which, luckily I have. So this is an additional one that I purchased, so you're going to need a longer one. You can see the difference between the two. And then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to snip off the red as well as the black on here, because I'm not going to be using those. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim those wires off, as I won't be using them, and I don't want them to interfere or cause any issues with the gimbal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to separate these out. Okay, so I'm removing the red and black wires from the servo pin here, and easiest way to do it is basically, you'll notice if I can get it to zoom in, I can take an X-Acto knife and I'm just going to peel back this piece of plastic here, because ultimately that's what's holding the wire in place. So if you see, I'm just peeling this back because I don't want the wires to touch at all, so I'm just not going to yank them out or cut them out. And you'll see the wire just fell out. So all you do is you just take a little X-Acto knife here. You get this plastic piece. Be sure not to cut yourself. And you can start to see that it's starting to come on loose. I just break that off, and then once that's off, I can just remove the red wire. So now I'm safe, because all reports online say just to use this one signal wire. And so here we go, we have our white signal wire, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to run this in. The polarity on this is far left is the signal. So we got far left, and then the polarity on this, the far right, should be the signal on this one. So now our gimbal's hooked up, and I can zip tie these if need be, but just to give you a look at it, here's basically the setup for it. So I'm gonna zip tie these together at some point, but now I'm just gonna test to make sure that the gimbal is functioning properly. Make sure that I have the wires in there, and you definitely don't want to fry your board. That's #1 goal here. Alright, so now I got the gimbal and the camera hooked up, powered on. You'll notice on the SJ4000 that the screws are a tad too short to fit an SJ4000 in there, so I have a zip tie holding this on. Having a little bit of a vibration problem, as well as the signal wire doesn't seem to be cooperating. It's either all the way down or all the way up as far as the gimbal goes, but I just have it plugged in just by the power, so there's only power going to it. You'll notice that it's shaking a little bit, so there appears to be a little bit of a vibration issue with it. There is a stabilizing ring that comes with it, so I'm gonna have to look into that, but you can see the basic functions. I really don't need to pan up or pan down. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm more interested in getting stable, jello-free shots. So hopefully this will be the solution to do that. The main function that I'm more interested in is working. I'll have to continue to investigate as to why, the signal wire is not working correctly. Whenever I hook it up to the flight control, it appears to normalize and function, but the up-down pan on this, and I do have the older controller. This is actually one of the test controllers. I purchased this secondhand because my original controller with the V303 wasn't working, but you'll notice that I don't have the icons on here, but the functionality still works. You can see that down arrow goes down. It's not sending any signals to the camera at the moment, just because the signal wire is not hooked up. So, but this is what I was after. Was getting stable shots like this. Like I said, there is this vibration going on with the quadcopter. Appears to be from the motors themselves. If you give it a nice little tap, for some reason it will stop vibrating, but I believe it's just trying to hold its position. Could be due to the weight of the camera. Not quite sure, but I have my core functions that I'm after, which is, just the stability here. I'd like to keep my waterproof case on here, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's pretty dusty where I fly, so on the SJ4000, these ports are exposed, so probably just put some Scotch tape over those when I fly. But I'm curious to see what the video is going to look like, with the slight vibration that's going on with this. So there is a stabilizing ring that you can, put onto the quadcopter or onto the gimbal. I haven't seen it make much of a difference personally myself. So, but as you can see, as I move it on to the quadcopter, it has different effects on it. Personally, I would like to get this subtle vibration out of there. It's the motors seem to be fighting to stabilize the camera, which is causing a little bit of a vibration here. So there are some adjustment screws underneath here, and I could possibly play with those to see if it's going to have any effect. I don't know if it necessarily will without the signal wire in there, but never hurts to try, so I'll give it a shot. I don't want to turn the quadcopter upside down with the battery in there, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. So this video helped you out anyway. I know mine didn't function as advertised like I would hope it would. Possibly have the signal wire and the quadcopter running wrong. Although it did work when I hooked it up to the flight controller, and then after a few minutes, then it just kind of went a little crazy on me. So if this video helped you out, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more upcoming videos.